The mute button got him right off the gate, guys. Right off the gate. No excuses when you're not just here. I know, clearly, man. I said I like that hat you got going on. Different setup for you this week. Less wind, less rain, less noise from what I can hear. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I actually got a little bit of time to prep in this week, so I wasn't running around trying to make sure internet worked at the stadium, doing all kinds of silly things. But I'm feeling good, and I'm hopeful about today's game. Surprise, surprise. So
you? No, I could never imagine you picking the Jets to win as like a touchdown underdog. But I think it started at 7.5. It dropped to 6.5. I don't think it's getting back to 7. I think a lot of people do I think the public likes the Jets this week after what they saw Baltimore do, after what they saw Fields do. No Ed Oliver, which was, I think, their best player on the defensive line last week. I think people think the Jets, I don't know if they think they can win, but they think they can hang around. And I think Fields running around definitely has like garbage time potential where like if the Jets are down like 10 with like 2 minutes to go, I think you could feel pretty good about, if Buffalo's playing prevent, like maybe getting a last minute touchdown to cover the spread. I would like to see them win the game. I think you want to see that too, but I think being competitive for 4 quarters, again, we don't do moral victories, but we'll just be another like welcome sign. We're like, all right, like this is a team in year 1 of a new regime. Like they're not getting embarrassed. Like, Buffalo, for all we know, might be the class of the AFC. They beat Baltimore on Sunday, as wonky a game as it was, and with how Kansas City has looked, it's probably those two. So if the Jets can remain competitive today and sneak out a win, I think it can do wonders for Aaron Glenn's support and the start of his tenure.
I don't think it's just the public that likes the Jets. I think there are the models, right? Like the betting models like the Jets too. And admittedly, it's based off of 1 week of data, right? So we're not working with historical Josh Allen, historical Justin Fields. We're not working with any of that. We're working with a week of data, but the models basically say that Buffalo played 3 quarters of really bad football and 1 quarter of good football, and the Jets played 3 quarters of good football and 1 quarter of bad football. So when you look at that, like, I don't know, I would easily take Jets getting the points for sure. Mm-hmm. And with the value at plus 250 on the money line, like, I don't know, to me, even outside of being a Jet fan and smoking that hopium all the time, like I think there is actually like worth a little tickle maybe on the money line. Like, I don't know, but this game could get weird today. Josh Allen has just historically struggled at the Meadowlands. And so we'll dig into the numbers against Aaron Glenn defenses the last couple of years for Josh Allen. It's not a good story for us, but we will dig into that. We'll dig into some other things. We'll talk about kind of the injuries, the storylines. How are you? I don't know. How are you feeling today? You gave us the analysis. Give me the heart.
I mean, my heart says that this game is going to be like 30-20. We're like, I think the Bills, maybe they cover late. Maybe the Jets hang around for like 2.5 quarters and then Allen pulls away. I do think that the Jets offense looked very good and I like what Engstrand is doing, but maybe the Steelers defense isn't as good as we thought. Is like, that's the week 1 hangups that I have. We're like going into the season, I'm like, the Steelers front 7 is very good. If Jalen Ramsey plays his best football, the secondary is good. Like that's a very good defense. But what if we're here in like week 7 and we're like, oh, the Steelers defense is bad. Like the Jets should have been doing that to them in that regard. Like that's the week 1 overreaction thing that I don't know if I am buying at the moment, where it's just like, I have all these, preseason notions that, by week 6 or week 7 can look like, silly. So like last year, like when the Jets lost to the Niners, everyone was like, going to San Francisco was their toughest game of the year. They were largely, besides the drive, they were largely uncompetitive throughout the game. But like everyone thought San Francisco, who was just in the Super Bowl the previous year, was going to be a very good team. And they were 6-10. So like what happens week 1 if the Steelers go on to win 12 games, I think the Jets' loss can age well. If the Steelers and their defense really gets in the year, we can be like, oh, this Jets offense is going to be like actually like league average, which would have been a huge welcome surprise, I think, to how we felt about it in August. I just think this is a little more than they can chew. I don't like how the secondary outside of Sauce played last week, and they're playing a quarterback who can hit all the throws Aaron Rodgers made and also can run around. So I don't like the matchup for that. Jets notoriously struggle with quarterbacks who can scramble. I feel like they always running quarterbacks always give them fits, regardless of who's calling the defense. So I don't know the best about the win today, but I think the Jets will be able. I don't think this is going to be like a 30-9. Like the offense reverts back to like old Jets form. Like I think they're still going to score some points. For the defense to get right, I just don't know if this is the week.
So I'm going to ask you another question. I've had you teetering on the edge of positivity a few times already.
Yes.
I'm sucking you in. I want to know, how many more weeks do you need to see the offense play like they played last week to be like, okay, this is real. It's not an anomaly. Like this is in some ways can be expected every week at this point, rather than being like, oh my God, how long until they find out we're not really this good? Do you have a number in mind? Like how many performances like this is it going to take for you to kind of get to that point?
If they play the entire month of September, scoring more than 20 points a game, the rushing attack looks good, I'll 100% buy in. Because like the first 2 weeks, because of how there's less preseason games now, a lot of teams rest their starters. Week 1 and week 2 often looks like glorified preseason football, just from like an execution standpoint, not like whatever backups are playing. Where it's like, if everyone's fully up to speed, like has their sea legs under them, and the Jets are still doing this, they're still doing, like the film guys love what Engstrand did. Like the offense is still creative. They're still building it around Fields. Fields is still playing with confidence. They're still able to run the ball efficiently. The offensive line, health-wise, knock on wood, stays intact. If they do that against Buffalo, they do that against Tampa, and then they do it in a primetime game against Miami, that's when I will 100% be like, all right, the Jets offense, until I get proven otherwise, is bankable. It's good. Like it's not top 10. Like it's not going to be like,
well, right now it's number 1.
Yeah, I know. But like, that's like the thing where I will have more confidence in this Jets offense than I will have had in any Jets offense in a while if they replicate week 1 for the rest of September.
Okay. So one more question, I guess, before we hop into like kind of the full Buffalo pregame here. We talked about on, the preseason pregames, JetHeads, like a few times we've talked about this, how the season was going to pivot on the Pittsburgh game. And I agreed with you. I really did believe in what you were saying there, but does the way that it went down change your thoughts at all? Or is it just an L is an L? It doesn't really matter. You needed to win that game, and we got a claw for 6-10 at this point, or 6-11 at this point. Like, does the manner in which the L was delivered change you?
Not particularly, because when you're a team that is limited from a talent perspective, as Jets are, you can't really lose games when you play that well. Because more often than not, you're probably not going to win a game where, let's say, you give a C- effort, or you play your C- game. Like it could happen. Like if you roll out into New Orleans and the Saints are that bad, and you play your C- game and you win, fantastic. But like I don't see many games on the schedule where like, hey, if the Jets give me a C- day, I think they can win. Like, so that's where I looked at that game as like a gateway game, where it's like, if you won that game, you have a real gateway to 8 or 9 wins. And the record isn't everything. I think I've been on this podcast saying that the Jets record isn't overly indicative of like how I will feel about Aaron Glenn, or how I feel about the new regime, or how I even feel about Justin Fields. Like, as giving him a possible second season, given how mediocres a lot of the college quarterbacks have looked this past weekend, which, if Fields keeps playing like he did week 1, I think that decision becomes even easier, seeing how some of these guys are playing. But we'll get into that probably on the podcast this week. But I don't think they can win 9 games without the Steelers in their back pocket, unless they win a game that, like, we went through the win-loss thing where, like, even you were like, hey, this is a loss. Like, whether that's Baltimore, who does lose stupid games,
yes,
whether that's in Buffalo, whether that's beating Buffalo today. Because, like, if they beat Buffalo today, I will probably change my opinion on this. Because if you told me, like, if I had given you week 1 on the first JetHeads live stream, I was like, hey, we'll beat Pittsburgh today, but we'll lose to Buffalo next week, you would take that 100%, like, you to the bank. If they do the inverse, you're in the same position record-wise. So if they are going to have to win a game, we did not pick them to win. Like, and not even like with your like glass half full, like pick them to win. Like a game like where they are close to a touchdown underdog, they are going to have to win that game.
Yeah. Well, so the one point I'd argue there is that in that world we were living in, where Pittsburgh was that gateway game. We were also trying to win a rock fight 16-13. That's not the football game we got. And whether or not this team does revert back to that, I think is kind of bears more on, does that need to be a gateway game or not? If this team can play like this every week, where it's a high-flying offense, and high-flying isn't the right word, it's a fast-paced offense that can move the ball down the field, and, you know, a defense that's potentially a little suspect, and we're going to get a lot of high-scoring games. The more points that happen in any given game, the funkier things can get sometimes. And so I think it just kind of changes the scope a little bit of, like, yes, in that world we were living in where it was play really good defense and see if Justin Fields can get you to 16 or 20 points, absolutely, you got to have the Pittsburgh game. But in a different world that we potentially might be living in, which we don't know for sure yet, maybe not, right? Like, maybe there's a better matchup that we weren't prepared for on the schedule, where we looked at it and we said, hey, there's no way the Jets can keep up with Baltimore. Maybe they can, right? Like, maybe there's an injury in the secondary for Baltimore, and their defensive backfield's even worse than it normally is outside of Kyle Hamilton, right? So I think it just changes kind of the picture of what we're looking at for the schedule. We'll see, right? There's no way to know this stuff for sure, but we'll see. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the point that we were talking about for this team was, like, the Jets had to win a very specific way if we thought the offense was going to be the clunker that we were kind of expecting it to be. Like, you know, basically running like a service academy offense, where, like, when you get up 14 points on Navy, it's very hard for Navy to come back given the style of offense they run. And the Jets were, you know, projected to be basically like the NFL version of that, where, like, if they got a lead and they could salt the clock and their defense could make the stops, they could win. That would be their formula to win. Well, they didn't win last week, and I think both of us believe that is probably due more to, you know, does Brandon Stevens drop a pick every week? Probably not. Xavier Gibson can't fumble every week because he's not on the team anymore, so we have that going for us. And can they clean up the penalties? So it's like, that's really what it's going to come down to. I don't think this is going to be a comeback to earth game. I don't think the Jets are not going to show the same effort, or the offense isn't going to play, like, you know, not nearly as well. I do think that part, for what we saw, was, I think, sustainable. I think as long as Fields is healthy and he clearly is playing with confidence, the team around him believes in him. I just want to reiterate this, that we saw it with Darnold, but 2020 got so toxic with Gase that it was hard to, like, you know, really show. But, like, you can see how this team responds to Justin so much more than how the 2022 team, which played football earlier in the year before Brees and AVT really got hurt, responded to Zach. Like, Justin Fields is a limited quarterback. We don't have any illusions about that. Like, you know, as good as we thought he could be in the draft, he hasn't shown nearly what people thought of him during the pre-draft process, but he's very likable. Like, his teammates respect him. His teammates play for him. Like, I'll go out on a limb and say, if Jalen Ramsey hit Zach Wilson in the same way that he hit Justin Fields, John Simpson doesn't do that. And that's not a shot at John Simpson. That's just how much that offensive line cares about Justin Fields. So I think the mojo and the vibes of this team are better under the solid teams because they're clearly playing together. And that's an important thing to establish your culture that early as a new coach.
100%. And that was always the rap on Justin Fields. Everybody in Chicago said good things about him. Everybody in Pittsburgh said good things about him. It's just the mental lapses in game that have been a problem for him, right? So I've been saying for a while, it's nice to just have a guy playing quarterback that you don't feel like is a weirdo, like is just like a normal dude that you'd be cool to hang out with. And he's like, doesn't say weird stuff, and he's not like a spoiled kid, you know? So I agree there. And to your point, like, we saw it happen with Zach Wilson where he would get hit late and nobody would do anything about it. And now John Simpson is really cool. He's awesome. And so he does bring a little bit of a different personality to the offensive line as a whole. It's a different group than it was then. There were some veterans on that line who were mercenaries who probably didn't really care much about, you know, Zach or really anybody. Like, it was just kind of like trying to chase that Super Bowl. And so it's a different feel overall, but like, we did see it happen where Zach would get hit and nobody would care. And, you know, Justin Fields, you know, the line wanted to take care of him last week. So that's good stuff. So let's get to the game today. We do have a comment in here. Can Mike Clemens get a sack today? I'm going to earmark that for
No.
later, because I am going to come back to that, because we all remember what happened in the Meadowlands last year with the game on the line against Buffalo.
Don't remind me. Oh, God.
Will, if you want to call in and we'll talk about Mike Clemens live, we can do that.
Yes.
Before we start taking calls, let's get to a little bit of kind of like the details here. So obviously the Bills are 1-0, Jets are 0-1. Both kind of had weird games that turned in the fourth quarter last week. Should be really warm today. There shouldn't be any kind of rain issues or anything like that. As far as injuries go, Ed Oliver being out is huge. The defensive line is a little suspect. The secondary is a little bit banged up. I don't think the kicker issue is going to matter at all. Matt Prater, although he's 41 years old and looks like
he's like Nick Folk light. Like they're the same.
Yeah.
Like,
and I don't know what's with his haircut, but he looked like the kicker from The Replacements last week when they showed him on the sideline and he was getting ready to kick the game winner. He looked like Nigel Gruff out there. So I don't think that really matters at all. I mean, that's a fine trade-off for them. James Cook's fine. Keon Coleman's fine. Josh Reynolds, I think, is out for the Jets.
correct. Do you know if Carter and Taylor are trending towards playing? I know they were questionable, and to be honest with you, I was sweating out a Liverpool 1-0 victory when they scored like a 93rd minute penalty about 3 minutes before this live recording started. So I have not been on Jets Twitter. Do we know where that's trending?
The last I checked, Taylor was good to go. Let me Google right now. You can vamp for a minute while I check this out.
I mean, Fuge put it in the comments. This Fields keep the 2 gloves for good luck today. Now, I could be misremembering this, and I would have to look this up myself, but I feel like he took one of the gloves off, if not both, when the second half got sunny last week. I don't think he kept them on for the entire game, if memory serves. I think that's right. So I think that was more just a weather thing. I'm a very, Kenny Pickett gave me the massive ick as soon as I saw him wearing 2 gloves, so I hope Fields does not do that, because that's a personal, vendetta of mine. I knew Kenny Pickett wasn't going to be good when he had 2 gloves, and then I watched him play football, so I really knew that. But there are no good quarterbacks who have 2 gloves. Thank you, Trey Grant, for saying he took them off second half. I knew I wasn't crazy. I wasn't sure if you could see or not when you were on the field. Sorry, when you were at the game on the field.
No, I didn't notice. Okay. Carter and Taylor are both playing this week, so that's good news. Sauce is fine. I don't know, whatever was going on with the groin this week. Not a big deal. So I think really today's going to be about stopping Josh Allen, right? And not only have, I guess you could say the Jets have done an okay job of it in the past because they forced him to think rather than just play his style of ball, which is just I'm going to do crazy things. I'm going to play hero ball. And in some ways they would force him into that more, right? Because they would close off the normal pathways for him and it would force him to throw up really bad balls and put him in situations where he was on his heels a little bit. And Josh Allen is one of those quarterbacks. Look, I talk a lot of shit about Josh Allen. The hate in my heart for Josh Allen will never die. I don't care how good he is. Until he wins a Super Bowl, I'm not ready to admit that he's good. I think whatever kind of deal he made with the devil earlier in his career that made his statistical, kind of line jump from that year 2 to year 3. I don't know what happened there, but I don't trust it until he shows me that he can win in the playoffs and win a big game. And so he is one of those quarterbacks, though, that if you disrupt him being the main focus of the game, if you get in his face, if you interrupt his patterns, right, you can get him to do stupid things. You can bait him into doing stupid things. And so the Jets under Saleh historically did a pretty good job of that. Unfortunately, the Bills played the Lions twice in the last 3-4 years, once in 22 and once in 24. In 2022, the Bills won 28-25. Josh Allen was 24-42 for 250 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. He also ran for another 16 yards or something and rushed for a touchdown, but they won the game. 2024, he had a really good performance. He was 23-34 for 362 with 2 touchdowns, no picks. 122 quarterback rating and another 70 yards rushing and another 2 rushing touchdowns. So
what week was that game? Do you have that up there? I'm trying to remember.
It was late in the season. I want to say it was between week 10 and 12 in the 2024 game last year. Yeah, it was late.
When the line, we have to give proper context. The Lions defense, that's post Hutchinson breaking his leg where they had 10 guys on IR. That was a walking wounded unit where Josh Allen, excellent quarterback, I know. I'm sorry for you to say. Took advantage of a defense that was hurting. So that should not surprise anyone. I don't think Aaron Glenn has his number, but I don't think the numbers also think that we are doomed in this matchup. Personally,
yeah, I don't think it means doom either. I do think it's also worth mentioning that this is not a straight up Aaron Glenn defense. This is a Steve Wilks defense with some Aaron Glenn head coaching influence, right? And so Wilks has bounced around the last couple of years. I didn't have enough time to pull up Josh Allen versus Steve Wilks. I didn't have the tools to slice that data appropriately and find it, but that would be worth, if somebody has some time on their hands, that would be worth figuring out as well. At the end of the day, I mean, everybody in the comments is saying it already. It's about how do you handle him rushing, right? And so big of a part of last year's loss was that on, that third down late in the Jets-Bills game when you needed to get a stop, everybody in the world knew that it was going to be Josh Allen with the ball in his hands going left, and Michael Clemens got frozen on the edge and couldn't figure out what to do, right? And so how does that not happen again this time? I think you saw in the Thursday night game this week, you saw the Packers do a really good job keeping Jaden Daniels in a box and not allowing that to happen. Now, not everybody has Micah Parsons, right? But the Jets do have speed at linebacker. And so between Quincy Williams and Jamie Sherwood, those are two kind of above average speed-wise linebackers. What's the plan here? And are you going to bring something creative, or are you going to play your kind of base look against the Bills?
Yeah, I mean, it's easier said than done. Jaden Daniels is still a younger player who I think you can still confuse more post-snap than you can Josh Allen at this point. So that is going to be Steve Wilks' ultimate challenge. And, I really want to see, and this is a big part of the matchup, like I thought the Jets' run defense was very good last week. But the Steelers have not been able to run the ball for a while now. Like, that's not a 2025 thing. That's not a 2024 thing. I don't think it's a 2023 thing. They have struggled to run the ball in recent times. I think it's going on like 3 or 4 years at this point. The Bills have one of the best rushing attacks in the NFL. Their offensive line is probably one of the 5 best offensive lines in the NFL. James Cook is probably one of the best 10 backs in the NFL. And they have Josh Allen, who has to be, a threat you have to take into account for in the run game. If the Jets' run defense holds up the same way they did last week, and they can limit a very good rushing attack, I think all the concerns or fears I had about the Jets' rushing defense, they won't completely go away, but it's going to definitely go on the back burner as far as pregame talk about or like what is giving me, nerves on game day, because this is a very good test for them. And if the Jets, let up 150 rushing yards and the Bills control the clock, and that's how the game gets away from them, I think it's that fear, while it was gone for week 1, is going to start to creep back up again. So this is a very good test for a unit that we had some real questions about going into the season. And while I liked how Harrison Phillips and Briggs played, these were 2 players who were available for late day 3 capital for a reason. So either if Muji pulled off the trade of all trades and he got them and they fit in this system and they're going to be, lockstep for the whole season, we have to give Muji his flowers, but this is a really, really tough test.
Do you think, though, that the better evaluation of Phillips and Briggs is what Quinnen put on tape last week? Like that, I mean, that was one of the better games I've seen him play in several years, right? And I think he gets unfairly knocked around a little bit because when he doesn't explode in the stat sheet, Jet fans have a tendency, and I think a little bit of this like left over from Leonard Williams, where we
Quinnen's a much better player than
we heard about Leonard Williams's hidden production almost on a weekly basis for like several years, and it got very tiring to hear it because it was like, this guy's not doing anything on the field. I'm tired of hearing the hidden production, and I think there's some like leftover feelings from that contribute to when Quinnen doesn't pop out in the stat sheet, people get a little like, hey, what's the deal with this dude? But the way he looked to the eye test last week was like, I was like, man, this dude's a demon. He was in the backfield a lot. He did pop in the stat sheet, all that good stuff came. So, really, really positive on the Briggs and Phillips trades to see how Quinnen played, which I really appreciated. Yeah.
I mean, we had been saying all offseason, get him a running mate. So, Briggs and Phillips did it week 1. Hopefully they can do it against week 2 because I would love to shut Deion Dawkins up.
Absolutely. Connor, we're talking Briggs, Phillips, the trade, how it impacted Quinnen last week, and whether or not they can stop the run against Buffalo today. How you doing?
Good, guys. Good to see you guys. And I think they can. I think that, listen, it allowed them to just kind of put Pittsburgh in get off the field spots, or the defense get off the field spots. They didn't. But you'd rather be putting yourselves in those positions, and they didn't make the plays they needed to. We know Tony Adams missed a big tackle. Michael Carter missed a big tackle. Stevens had a couple blown coverage assignments. But when you go back and watch that game, because of the way Phillips, Quinnen, Briggs, I mean, the way they played put the Steelers in 3rd and longs, where it's like, hey, now you got to go back to work and figure out, okay, how do we get some stops? How do we get off the field? Why weren't our blitzes effective? You have a quarterback today that you got to be really, really careful with, because not only can he beat the blitz with his arm, but he's somebody that can break a tackle and kind of beat you for 30 yards rushing as well. So I think it made a massive difference. Those, if you want to be positive about Mushi right now, those trades on a whim might be like your biggest reasons to be positive. And, I won't get too far into it, but on the other side, we saw the shortcomings of the wide receiver room, a move they didn't make. So I think sometimes people overreact to moves not made at the end of cuts, but I actually think this one was justified, that them getting 2 defensive tackles made everybody on defense much better.
And I think when you saw how the offense played, like the offense was okay, right? It was the defense that was struggling. So
if we got that every week, the Jets will win like 10 games. Genuinely.
One of the things we were talking about before you got on here is how many performances like that do you need to see before you expect it?
It's a good one. It's a really good one, because it was against a good team. So it kind of holds different weight. If you did that against a Carolina, you'd sit there and be like, we expect to do this against a Carolina. So, I mean, if Fields does this 2 of the 3 next games, I think you start to say, okay, this is what we think the offense should be. There's expectations now, because the next 3 games are Buffalo, Tampa, and Miami. And I know Miami has their problems right now, but Buffalo and Tampa don't. So you say what you want about the Bills' shortcomings at safety, and even they had a bad linebacker week last week. Milano, I talked to people there in Buffalo that thought Milano, because I was like, is it the injury? And they're like, no, he looked really good this summer. He looked back to form, and then had a really bad week 1. So I think they just had a really, really bad week. I think their linebackers will be better this week. I don't think their safeties are ever going to change. I think they're just bad. So, yeah, I think – I'll tell you what, I know Meegs is probably going to nod his head at this. The more this quarterback class plays, the more we are all praying Justin Fields plays like he did week 1, because forget taking steps forward. So many of the quarterbacks have taken steps backwards in just 3 games already. Aller, Klubnik. I didn't think Nussmeier played well yesterday as much as I still like Nussmeier. Sellers, he got hurt, and he's been up and down. Mateer's been the only one that you sit there and go like, okay, he's actually going the right way, but he's not locked to be a top 10 pick. So I know it's an overreaction, but if Fields does this for the month of September, the Jets are going to be operating like Justin Fields is their quarterback for the next 2 years.
The fact that you didn't even say Arch kind of shows that Arch is basically like a 2027 thought. Like that's how bad it's been.
Arch is packed away. Let's hope he's even a good prospect for 2027, but yeah, he can't declare.
Yes.
And if they do roll into the end of the season with thinking like, okay, Fields is the quarterback next year, we're not even considering this anymore. That makes the contract look really, really smart at that point. Because we've talked a bunch of times about not putting yourself in that Darnold position or that Baker position where you're like, oh my God, now we have to do something. We force ourselves into it. And some people complained this offseason about, really, you're giving Justin Fields $20 million? Like that seems a bit high, right? But if it works, all of a sudden that narrative shifts all the way in the other direction to like, wow, this was really good.
It's a great contract. You look at the structure of it for Fields, if they hold on to him next year, which we were all but certain they will, because I said from the jump that he's either 1, the guy, or 2, he's the bridge to the guy. So that's what they paid him like. And the cap number goes up next year, but you're not paying him real starting quarterback money. I guess and this is real overreaction, but the question that would really become interesting is if he plays like he's the guy for an extended stretch of time, do you do you try to rework the deal to get a discount long term because you think he's going to only get better here? Or are you too afraid of the risk of that he reverts back to what he's been for future years and then you're stuck with a quarterback contract? Because he's not going to get paid, obviously, like these quarterback contracts that are flying off the shelves. If you did now, because the counter is, and once again, this is fun to get a little ahead of ourselves as Jet fans. I think we deserve this. If Fields just keeps getting better over the next 2 years, then you're going to be paying him an astronomical number in 2 years, which is a great problem to have. I'm going to stop talking about it from here. But yeah, I am rooting more than ever that this happens because I do not like this quarterback class.
They were not good. We said it earlier in the pod. We have a quarterback development problem, man. Like they're not
a disaster.
They
Guys,
don't play.
I do have to let you know that PSU Joe in the comments says you're both overreacting and Aller will be fine.
He's been the same quarterback for 3 years, but okay.
That's the issue. Is like you look at some of the mistakes he's made against teams they're playing JV teams right now, and he's making mistakes. And with Aller, I don't worry about him against JV teams. He's got to play well against the Ohio States of the world at some point. Because the NFL, every team is the Ohio State of the world. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. I hope Aller gets better. I hope you're right, Joe. I want Aller to be good as much as anybody wants Aller to be good. I want all the quarterbacks to be good because, when all the quarterbacks are good, whose job it's good for my job. People care. So I don't like everybody always like people think I hate Sam Levitt because I didn't have him in my top 10 quarterbacks. No, I wish Sam Levitt was good, but I just don't see like Jordan Tyson carries that offense week in and week out. So, yeah, it's the college football has an issue right now where everybody's operating like an AAU team. They go into the portal every year. They rate all the rosters of inferior teams, the Idahos, the Ohios of the world, even the smaller Power 4 programs. And then they, with the limited amount of practice time, they just spit out a product where they go, okay, let's see what happens right now. And I'm not going to go as far to say it's ruining the sport because I think the sport's great. But it's hurting the NFL developmental aspects of it. Like, look at the successful quarterbacks of that we know of very, very recently. You look at Jaden Daniels played 5 years of college football at 2 programs. I think Michael Penix is going to be really good. I know he's only played a couple games, but he's played really good. Michael Penix played 5 years of college football at 2 programs. I mean, you just have guys that are playing at 4 different programs right now with no true balance or developmental aspects of going into the NFL.
Yeah, these guys don't play nearly enough football. Like Mateer, who's looked the best, I hope he plays the second year at Oklahoma. Personally,
Me too.
Personally, for his development, not that I don't want him on the Jets or don't want him to declare. Like, I'm sure being the Oklahoma quarterback in the NIL world pays pretty well. Yeah. So get 25 starts in the SEC, man. You'll probably be better for it.
That's going to be one of the positives for sure is the NIL keeping players in school.
Now, let me ask you guys like a devil's advocate question because you know how much I hate Josh Allen. So I'm going to try to remove that from this. But Josh Allen played well enough at Wyoming to put himself in position to be a top 10 pick. He was even considered at 1 overall to Cleveland that year. And his accuracy was horrible. There were major gaps and flaws in his game. And then he pretty much showed all of that his rookie year and a little bit of it year 2 as well. And then in NFL, he developed and he turned into what he is today and arguably the face of the NFL. And if the NFL is ready to kind of move forward from the Chiefs to like the next one, like it's Buffalo, like that's the next man up. And so is there something to be said for like, hey, just draft on that physical talent alone, not necessarily in the top 10, but with somebody like, just because we're talking about Aller already, where you're like, hey, I see what I need to see, and I'm not worried about what's happening with him under James Franklin. I know that I can get him in the building and I can make it work here.
It's an interesting combo. I think that, one, Allen did play a lot of college football. He had a confidence problem that was pretty apparent. I remember even at the Senior Bowl that year, going down on the field after, and he had confidence issues, and you could see that he felt like every throw was going to dictate what his, how he was projected. And going to Buffalo, where they leaned on the run and the defense his first couple years, not only supported him, but it's an environment that kind of lifted him up a little bit and brought out the best of him, of the old adage of like, if I've seen you do it once, I know we can get it out of you more times. And he was that kind of guy. I feel like he really leaned into his running ability the longer his NFL career's gone on, because he just realized he's just so physical superior than to so many players out there. But I think when you look at it, there's a couple issues. One, it's the concepts of the lack thereof they're running at the college level. Two, it's the lack of playing time. Anthony Richardson's the perfect example of that. He barely played any college football. And I think that's going to be something that's going to be an interesting combo when you look at Lenore Sellers, as one of those guys as well, who's going to play enough college football, but he's another guy, like, I kind of hope he's patient because he takes a lot of sacks. He plays slow. A lot of these guys do. It's not a Lenore Sellers problem. It's a problem with a lot of these guys. Allen's an outlier. I think it's better when you just accept when something is an outlier rather than always trying to chase it, because he for every Josh Allen, there's 10 guys that are just physically special and can't put it together between the ears. I'll say this right now. Like, one to keep an eye on is Drake May. Drake May is somebody that is pretty big, massive arm, can run, can do all these things, and he plays slow right now, and he's very turnover prone, and he just doesn't have confidence at the moment right now. And I know it's only week 1, but they looked bad. Once again, I've asked some people up there around the summer, and they're like, yeah, they're going to try to play defense and run the ball because they just don't think he's ready for prime time right now. And, you kind of see where that one goes. Drake May is as talented as anybody physically. So these are things that, like, yeah, it just goes on and on of, like, you can't attach yourself to outliers, and development is key. And, the Giants are trying that right now with Jackson Dart, who's not as physically talented as a lot of these guys. But, like, I think the Giants up top don't want to throw him into the fire. And I think you have a coach that knows he's fired if they don't win games. And I'm kind of fascinated to watch the tug of war that goes on there with that quarterback situation.
Yeah, it feels like Dart might play today if the Cowboys are up 20-0.
I think there's a chance, and I think that's beyond idiotic. That line is horrific, and it's not an Andrew Thomas patch job. The line sucks everywhere. So I don't, and I'm not like this huge Jackson Dart guy that wants to make excuses for him if he struggles right out of the gate. But this is the NFL's biggest issue right now, right? And it was why the Jets had to do a clean slate. The tug of war game with regimes has all these places on different timelines. If nobody's on the same timeline, then you're never going to succeed as a franchise. It's as simple as that.
And it goes all the way back for us to Idzik Rex. Like, that's when we started talking about it. Are we going to get a Jackson Dart to Xavier Gibson touchdown pass at some point this season?
What's that? Giants Saints week 6.
Oh my God! Honestly, that's like the Chris Paul meme. Like, when they're down 30-7, and you'll see that, like, in the fourth quarter.
Oh,
I know you probably have to go soon, Connor. I have a question for you before you go. Alan Lazard's active. I don't think necessarily a surprise with the Josh Allen the Josh Reynolds news. So Reynolds played 62 snaps last week, which is functionally every single offensive snap. I think he missed like 2 or 3. Is Lazard taking all the offensive snaps this week, or do you foresee kind of a different role for him? Anything? Can you make us feel better about him being active?
Well, I don't think it changes a lot because Reynolds didn't do anything last week. Like I said, the Jets should have won the game on that last drive if Reynolds can work a comeback against Ramsey, and he couldn't because everybody else did their job. He will be on the field a lot because Lazard will block like Reynolds does. I would give a 5% bump in snaps to Arian Smith and Tyler Johnson just by the nature of that. But no, the Jets are going to run the hell out of the football today. And Lazard, for all of his sins, can sometimes block. So,
yeah,
man,
sometimes. Or it's a crack block and he gets 15 yards penalty. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's as good as a blocker as the narrative is, but he's capable. And like, the problem is that's just not Arian Smith's game at his size. So I don't really think I can make you feel better about it. I just hope Mason Taylor is healthy and they could run 2 tight ends a lot. And Andrew Beck did some good things last week. So I put the running backs on the field together in this game. Honestly, I like Braylon Allen even as that lead blocker in front of Fields on that Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry kind of play. I would throw to Brees a lot. Man, the Jets are so ugly at wide receiver after Garrett Wilson, man. So, like, any other way you can get other people on the field, the better. But I think this is going to be a good game today. I'll leave you guys with that. I think this is going to be a really, really good game. I know the spread is big, which might be a trap, but I think there's going to be a lot of scoring in this one, and I think the environment, at least in the first half, is going to be really good. And I like Brees over longest rushes, 14.5 yards. I think he passes that today.
Oh, okay. Easy money. Easy money.
Hey, boys.
Thanks, Connor.
Thanks, Connor. I will add to that point about Brees. I think my favorite bet today, we'll probably get into this later, is you put in the chat, Brees over 30 receiving yards at plus 194 is just too tasty. That's like one screen and like one other thing. This receiving group is it's rough, man. It's rough.
Yeah.
PSU Joe did ask us in the chat, Olu's PFF score last week was kind of average, but I thought he played really well. What did we think? I thought Olu was great. Like, I think we talked about this, that Highsmith got him one or two times. I think Membu was completely rock solid throughout, and that's why he graded out so well. And Olu had some really high-end splash plays and like really high-end play. That is what I took about. And like I said, he got beat one or two times, so I think that lowered the grade because I think it was more of a high variance performance where like the good was spectacular and the bad was like, all right, he got beat like for that. It wasn't like a consistently like, didn't get beat at all, but like didn't have the high end that I think they probably would grade out higher based on the average, but I thought Olu was really good last week, to be honest with you.
So this is my first season subscribing to PFF Premium where I can see all those grades every single week. And so I was curious too, because we covered this on our show on Monday or Tuesday. And, obviously Membu graded out spectacularly across the board. Most of the offensive line did. Josh Myers fell exactly where you expected him to fall, but he was good. Olu looked really good on eye test, but then the grade didn't match up with it, which I think is kind of the heart of what PSU Joe is asking here. And so when I rewatched on the All 22, it looked to me like Olu's mistakes didn't result in negative plays for the Jets, which is why I think his grade kind of didn't reflect what you saw with your eyes, because Justin Fields did a really good job manipulating the pocket. Every time pressure came from that side, he was able to kind of step up, step through it, reset his feet, and in many cases was completing passes. Despite having pressure from that side, he was able to work really well with his feet and get it to the right spot. So I think that you live with an Olu game like that because, again, the good plays were really, really good, and it drew your eyes to him when he was playing really well. And the things that I think probably lowered his grade a little bit just didn't result in anything bad happening. So that's why PFF grades are not always the end all be all, as we said earlier this week. Like, it's a good kind of, it's a good way to like lick your finger and feel where the wind's blowing, but not necessarily mean everything. And I think you live with that from Olu, and you're okay if the PFF score is bad because, like, hey, they work together as a unit really well. Yeah,
like the offensive line plays like that. Like, Membu is probably not going to be the highest graded offensive lineman every week, but we said he wouldn't stonewall TJ Watt, and he did. So I'm not saying that he can't be, but if the offensive line stays healthy and you're getting basically the relative performances you got from all five of those guys, like, this is going to be a top 8 unit. Like, they're just really good. They play well together. They scheme. It seems they really enjoy it. And hopefully John Simpson gets paid.
And I said on the pregame last week that, like, it's unfair to expect Membu to not let up any pressures, and then he went out and did it. And all I said I wanted to see was for him to look mean and nasty. And then we saw a couple plays on the All 22 where he was finishing blocks on TJ Watt that were making TJ Watt sit on his ass on the field and beg for flags. And it was like, no, you just got pancaked by a rookie. That's what happened, right? There's nothing nefarious here. So, I mean, man, what more could you have asked for from Membu? Joe, how you doing?
Do we lose him? Do we got him? Before Joe gets back, to counter your point about Membu, JJ wanted to glaze Lobro so much on that broadcast, and he wasn't allowed to because Armand Membu. So that I can only give my eternal gratitude to him for that.
100%. I'm gonna kick. Oh, there he is. Joe's moving again.
I can see him. Can you hear us? Oh, yeah. Joe, how are we feeling today?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hour out from kickoff.
My casual Sunday outfit on.
So where's your mind at for today's game?
Look, I went with Jets plus 6.5. I've slowly, like all of us, been talking myself into the potential of this upset. I don't disagree with your assessment overall, Meegs. I didn't pick them to win. I picked them to lose like 30-24. Would I be stunned if they win? No, it's a divisional game. Weird things happen week 2. I do think you win this game. It's quite a nice statement early in the season. I just need to see it first, right? I do think this is going to be a game that's going to be close in the fourth quarter. And I think much like the Steelers game, can they make those like 2 plays late that they did in the Steelers game, right? They had the ball with a chance to win on that drive before the last. I said it to Paul in the stadium. I was like, if they get the stop here, they're going to win the game. They got the stop. They got the ball back. They got the 3rd and 3. And they couldn't get the first down. And ultimately, it ended up being the game. I think it's going to be similar in this one where they're going to be right there late. And I just worry that Buffalo has the quarterback and probably the kicker advantage just from a length standpoint, like how far he can kick it. So I can't pick them yet, but I will not be stunned if they win. I think the offense will be good again today. I don't know if they're going to score 30, but I could see them in the mid-20s, and I think they'll move the ball well. Buffalo's also got a shit defense, so it's definitely a Brees day. I agree with all that sentiment. I'm heavily over-leveraged on Brees and Garrett kind of everywhere. I think Garrett, again, you can get good value in him being just over like 40, 50, or 60 yards, depending on where you're happen to be gambling. But if I had to lean player props, it's very Brees heavy. I also think you can get good Mason Taylor value in some places. Like I feel like he'll have 3 or 4 catches today. He only had 1-on-1 target in week 1, and he's going to be a full go. So I don't know. I'm excited. I think it will be an entertaining game. 2 weeks ago, I wasn't sure this was going to be an entertaining game. I thought it could be 20-3 at halftime. I don't think we're going to see that.
What about Braylon Allen? I feel like the Ed Oliver injury actually is going to help Braylon Allen more than it'll help Brees. I think Brees is going to do his thing kind of regardless of that, like because he's going to get involved on the edges and in the screens, and he'll have the bubbles and all that stuff that Brees does really well. And if he looks like he looked last week, I mean, God, it doesn't really matter at that point, right? If he has that burst through the gap. But not having Ed Oliver in the middle, I think really helps Braylon Allen, especially once they get down inside the 20 and they're trying to just mash the ball into the end zone. Like, I don't know. Braylon didn't have a ton of burn last week. He did get the touchdown, but like, I don't know. He had like 5-6 carries or something, and he didn't really do a whole lot with it. I think he is potential for a bounce back week in terms of production as well.
Yeah, I could see it. And same for Davis too, who got kind of limited use. He really kind of got like the 2 third down carries and didn't do much. Allen, I go back and forth on what his ceiling and potential could be. There's certain weeks where I'm like, is some of the hype a little over the top, especially when you see his speed and shiftiness compared to Brees. I do agree though, downhill, if it's blocked up right, I think he could have a couple nice rips today. And my hope is that, him and Davis could combine for a solid 10, 12 carries to take some of the load off Brees. So Brees doesn't have, 45 carries between the first 2 weeks and maybe start to get a little worn down. I'd also like to see a little more Brees in the passing game. He had the one big catch and run, get him 4 or 5 catches in this one. I didn't see anything shocking in the inactive list. I think I could be wrong. My guess is Tyler Johnson is a starter next to Garrett Wilson and plays the majority of the snaps with a little more Arian Smith. And I'm sure Lazard will play a bit. I don't think Lazard's playing 60 snaps for Josh Reynolds. I hope not. That loss is kind of like whatever. I mean, he's probably the most replaceable starter in the Jets offense, maybe outside of Tony Adams, who's just terrible. So we'll see. I mean, the news headline, the injury news headline is no Oliver in this game, right? And how that should have an impact. And maybe that's why the line's gotten all the way. I've seen the line down to 5.5. And too many people, I think, are picking the Jets to cover, that it's getting me a little uncomfortable. But it's a big line for a divisional game. And it's a good sign for this regime. Again, I don't want to celebrate moral victories, and I'm not going to be happy if they're 0-2. I think it's a good sign for this regime if they are right in this game down to the final minute, because I do think Buffalo will definitely be a playoff team. Pittsburgh's a fringe playoff team. Hopefully Darnold gets his head out of his ass and they get a win today. I doubt it, but that would be a good sign, I think. Come out, get your ass kicked today. That's not a good sign. So it's an interesting one. It does sound like there's a lot of Bills fans there today, unfortunately, but I can't get mad until the Jets win more. Yeah.
Win a division title, I'm sure that will change, which I think the hat I'm wearing is from the last time they won, which was 2002. I was 5 years old. So they really got to start winning games.
There's a lot of questions in the chat about the defensive backfield, Meegs, and I'll kind of bundle them all down into one. Everybody's asking similar things, right? Which is how long until Tony Adams and Brandon Stevens face some kind of consequences, whether that's getting benched or seeing reduced playing time. Can A.Z. Thomas get involved? I think the stock answer is A.Z. Thomas was hurt in the preseason. He's a rookie. It's probably going to take a little longer for him. Malachi Moore is also a rookie. So the problem is that the 2 bodies behind them are not necessarily ready to go. I think you could also talk about Stiggers a little bit, and does Stiggers see some burn out on the outside? But let's talk about the defensive backfield as a whole. And, when is it time to do something versus ride it out?
So Stevens, it's probably not going to happen in September. If he repeats last week 4 times, it's going to be impossible to not do something. But even I don't think he's going to be that bad in 4 consecutive weeks. I think people are forgetting why Tony Adams is called bubble wrap. He's probably going to get hurt within the next 2 games, and the Jets are going to be forced to take him out of the lineup. That's coming eventually, where he makes a tackle and his body explodes like it normally does. There's a reason that nickname started. It wasn't because he wasn't good. It's because he can't stay on the field on top of not being good.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of people have pointed out that Thomas is active today. I think that might be more of let's get you used to getting dressed on game day. Let's get you on specials. Let's get you 3 snaps like Malachi Moore had. And then 2, 3, 4 weeks from now, if it's needed, you're ready to go. I agree. They're going to give Stevens at least a full month to if he's really bad, it's a different thing. I remain actually more worried about Adams and Stevens in some ways. I'm angry at Stevens for dropping the game sealing interception, but DBs can't catch. That's why they're DBs. I just think Adams is just truly a lost cause out there. Stevens is an athlete, and you could blitz and he could tackle, and there'll be times he's in position and make a play. He'll probably end up with a couple interceptions at some point when they're playing the right quarterback. But it's a good sign, I think, that at least Thomas is into the lineup. I expect the starting secondary to hold probably up through at least London, and then we'll see what comes after that.
You know what frustrates me the most about Tony Adams is at Illinois, he played all over the defensive backfield. He can play every position at a collegiate level. And I think that there is value to an NFL team and a player like that has a few different skill sets that you can move around and do clever things with. My problem is that he's not an NFL starting safety, right? And so why are the Jets just insistent upon trotting this guy out as a starting safety? He's a very good asset to the team. I don't think Tony Adams should be cut. I think there's a way to have Tony Adams on your roster, use him on specials, maybe put him in for certain packages where you're trying to do something clever. But Tony Adams is not a starting safety, and that's what really bothers me, because you're taking a player who really did show some interesting skill sets at Illinois and moved all over the field, and you're just forcing him into this role at the NFL that he's not qualified for.
Yeah, it's a fair shout, and I'll jump off to let you guys do your thing here. This has been great. Consistency. Good. Nice to not be in the parking lot, I'm sure, this time from a tech standpoint. Less stress. I kind of agree with that. It's a shame because he's a UDFA. It's a nice story. He should be your 3rd or 4th safety and a good special teamer who's James Ahedebo or something.
Yeah.
Not a guy who's supposed to start. And it's not him. He's just not physically good enough to be a starting safety in the NFL, which we'll get more at some point, and more will make his share of mistakes, but at least he's working towards a higher ceiling, I think, than Adams is. And knock on wood that, Cisco can also be a guy at some point and make some plays. I do think we got to, as Jet fans, my sign-off reminder is that the Bills are really good, and they have a really good offense, and they're going to score points. So, don't be, firing everyone because the Bills scored 27 or 30 points today. They just scored 40 points on the Ravens, who are going to be probably in the AFC Championship game. So just keep that perspective. You want to see the Jets show up, be competitive, force a couple turnovers, maybe have the offense still. The world is not ending if they lose this game competitively. It will be a bad sign if they get the doors blown off them at home, without a doubt. But again, do not expect the Bills to score 9 points today. Now, Josh Allen has 1 game a year where the Bills' random offense is randomly terrible. Do I think it's going to happen today? Probably not.
It's because he stinks, Joe.
It's one of my. There's one Twitter account that once every 6 months gets into my mentions, reminding me how out on Josh Allen I was, and it's just viciously. And he's one of the few people I don't block because he's right. I was very wrong about Josh Allen. But it's just that one, man, being that wrong on that one sucks, especially.
Stand tall, Joe. We were right. Don't worry about it.
So. God willing. All right, boys. I will see you in the group chat. I will see you in the Discord. I will be on post game. I got to go take a shower and get myself mentally prepared for the hell I'm about to go through the next 3 hours. Talk soon.
Thanks for joining us.
Later, Joe. Thank you. I really appreciate that. You're just dying with not long, just early take on the guy who won MVP last year. I really appreciate the commitment to this bit.
The thing is, if we can get to from now to 10 more years when he's a little older and he's breaking down and the Bills aren't this good every year and he hasn't won a Super Bowl, I can just victory lap forever and be like, I was right. That dude's
he's
trash.
Not a winner. He's
Dan Marino. So I'm just holding out hope that can happen for me, because that'll really make me feel good.
It would actually be very funny if he goes the full. I mean, he didn't even make the Super Bowl his second year like Marino did. If he was just going, he will be synonymous with being the best player to probably never play in a Super Bowl if he keeps this up. But I don't know, the way Brett Veach is running the Kansas City Chiefs. Unfortunately, I don't know how much longer that is going to go on.
It feels like it's not coming to a conclusion, but it feels like it's petering out. A lot of times, like with the Patriots, it almost, when the Patriots were dying, right? There was the first time that they were dying, and it was like, oh, the Patriots are over. And then they had that whole second resurgence. And then the second time it exploded like a supernova and it was over, right? This feels very much like the first time the Patriots were dying, where you were just like, man, like, I don't know if this team has it anymore. And so I'm wary of the Chiefs coming back and retooling. Now, Brett Veach has for a long time not managed that roster well. And it's kind of like chickens coming home to roost now. But you could have said the same thing about the Patriots for a while, where it was like, hey, they never get any receivers for Tom Brady. They never do this. They never appropriately staff up what they need to staff up. And then they had this whole kind of second coming where like Brady was taking less money. They figured out how to bring some stars into that team, and they re-injected the team that ended up sending them on another pretty good run. So I'm not ready to call the Chiefs dead, but it definitely, like, it feels weird. It feels different right now. And they might be going through at least a small lull in whatever they have going on.
Yeah. So all the Chiefs have to do, and Brett Veach is actually very good at the second part of this, draft the greatest tight end of all time, and then take another tight end who's a criminal, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine. That's how you rebuild. That's what the Patriots did. Just follow the model. And the Chiefs take criminals all the time, so this should be easy for them. Yeah,
100%. So we're running out of time here. We got to kick to Connor soon, so let's like really rifle through the last couple things we wanted to do. So who's the player to watch today? Who's like where does this game rest on? Give me offense, defense, whatever you want to do.
So I think we hammered the Brees point home enough. Like, if the Jets run the ball, they'll win, or like have a chance to win if they run the ball, super effectively. If they don't make the mistakes the Ravens made at the end of the game, like, the Bills defense is runs the ball. So we hammered the Brees home point enough. I think the linebacker play, I think Quincy Williams can win them this game on the defensive side of the ball, where it's like, if Quincy is doing a good job spying Allen, limiting those scrambles, and then when it's time, whether it's Cook or whether he comes on a blitz and the Jets need to force turnovers, and I don't trust the secondary to catch the ball. I do trust the linebackers to hit someone and jar one loose. And if Quincy can do that today and flip a field and flip the game, I think they're going to need that to win. They're going to have to win the turnover battle, and if they can't do it picking off passes, they're going to have to force some fumbles, and I think Quincy's your best bet for that.
That was my answer too. I'm not going to try to say something different for the sake of, like, pardon the interruptioning this thing. Like, that's the right answer, I think. And I think, to your point, it happens on a single play. It's that play with Michael Clemens last year. If that play can go differently this time, whether it's in the middle of the game or the end of the game, where Quincy can make something happen with a big hit, cause a turnover, whatever it is, or maybe it's just a stop on a third or fourth down, that flips this game for sure. As far as the coaching advantage, you're going to laugh at me now, because not only do I think Josh Allen sucks, but I also think Sean McDermott sucks.
This one is better. This one is better. This one is more tolerable because there is an actual functional argument that Sean McDermott has taken the Bills as far as he can take them. That doesn't mean I can agree that a first-time head coach is better than him, because there is proof of concept, but this take is less crazy than your Josh Allen.
Fair enough. Okay, we'll move on from there. I think McDermott sucks. Like, I think his in-game decisions are bad, and I think he loses games for Buffalo more often than he wins games for Buffalo, and I'll leave it at that. Let's do the betting stuff, and then we'll do quick predictions before we wrap. So we talked a little bit at the top. Jets plus 250, I feel like, is just worth a sprinkle, because those are good odds in a divisional game where we're at home and they traditionally struggle. Like, why not throw a little bit at that? Plus 6.5, I love. It looks like it might have crept down to 5.5 at this point. Mason Taylor touchdown at plus 470. I feel like there might be a determination to get him more involved this week.
I don't hate the bet, but if we're talking value and we're talking discrepancy, Jeremy Record is plus 1,800 to catch a touchdown today.
Ooh.
If you think a Jets tight end is catching a touchdown, which, play action, roll out, peel off to the back of the end zone, I think Ruckert is a better bet because the value that is just there.
Yeah, I mean, the value is certainly better.
Yeah. So just for the tickler file, if you want a long shot today, if you want to gross Jets touchdown scorer, I think Ruck's my pick.
I think we also like pretty much all things Breece and Braylon, right? Like Braylon's rushing total is pretty low. Braylon's touchdown bet is good value at plus 200. Breece there's a number of things involved with Breece, whether it be longest single rush, over 60.5 total, 30 plus receiving yards. It all kind of feels like free money. He could do any of those things on one single play. So we don't want to step on Connor here. We're at noon. Official prediction. Hit me.
I think the Jets lose 31-24.
I'm going to say
31-24.
Okay, so you're saying the Bills are covering and winning.
Totally, yes.
I'm going to say we get an unexpected game this week, kind of like we did last week. It's a little bit lower scoring than we all think. I think the defense rebounds a little bit. I think the offense comes back to earth a little bit, and I think it's 24-20 Bills.
Wow, I got you to predict the Jets loss. This is the first, and
it's not what I want to do.
Probably not going to be many on this podcast.
I'm not being truthful with everyone right now. It's not what I really believe.
Well, no, it's probably what you believe, but it's not what you want to say. In your heart, what you like. It's head over heart right here. Here we go, PSU Joe. Just place Rucker. I'd love to hear that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you at some point this week, Monday or Tuesday.
Later, guys.